Hello, Radical Audacity listener. I am so glad that you are here today. It's December, and it's that time of year when we like to reflect on the past year and think about what happened for us. Think about our growth, think about our journey, and get ready for the year ahead. So that's what this episode is about. It's that classic what happened this year and thinking about the year ahead. Now, as I'm talking about the things that happened for me, I want you to reflect on what happened for you. The good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty, the exciting, and I would love to hear from you. You'll see in the show notes, I have a link you can click on where you can leave me a voice message, and then I can use that voice message in one of my episodes so that we can talk to each other and hear from each other. So be sure to click on that link in the show notes. Leave me a message. I want to hear how this year was for you. And I always like making sure that these episodes directly apply to you and are useful to you. So I'm going to do a lot of reflecting on my personal growth because there are none of us, got to work on my grammar. There are none of us out there that have all of the answers and that have it all dialed in. I am certainly not somebody that has it all dialed in. So I'm on the ride with you. All right. Before I dive into 2022, I'm going to touch on the very end of 2021 because it sets the stage for the dumpster fire that was the beginning of 2022. I don't know if anybody else had this. So at the end of the year with insurance, you want to get all of your last medical stuff in and so that you're not hitting the deductibles and starting fresh in January, getting some of those big things done. So I was like, it's Christmas break. I was still teaching. It's Christmas break. It's time for me to get my mammogram that I've been putting off, get my annual gynecology visit in that I've been putting off. Let me do all of that. And so I did all of that in December of 2021. Well, that opened a whole can of worms. Because I did mammogram and my annual at the same time, it meant that I got negative results on both at the same time, or positive results or scary results. So my mammogram showed a spot on my breast that they were not sure about it. It was very concerning to them. And so I had to go get further testing on my breast. And my gynecologist found issues and my test came back with abnormal cells. And so they were very, very worried about cervical cancer. So those two things led to a whole big can of worms medically for January and February, where I was going through all kinds of testing. And it was kind of scary. Thankfully, my breast issues came back as we're just going to watch it. We don't think it's anything serious right now. And then in March, I had a hysterectomy because of the precancerous cells that I had, and they were worried about cervical cancer. And because I'd had gynecological issues in the past, it was just best to have the hysterectomy. I had a history of things. Ended up being good because I had endometriosis, which explains a lot of the severe pain that I was experiencing and so many of the symptoms I was having. So that was March. So January, February, March, first quarter, that was rough. That was emotional. And along with all of those emotions, my ex-father-in-law passed away, my children's grandfather. In fact, the same day I found out I needed to have a hysterectomy, I found out that my children's grandfather passed away. And he was my dad for 20 years. So that made it emotional, even though he was no longer my father-in-law. For 20 years he was, and I cared, and he is my children's grandfather. So it was just You want to talk about a rush of emotions and really sitting in the dark swirlies for several months. That was January, February, and March for me. I recorded an episode 84 on the podcast, if you want to go back and listen to it, that was talking about my surgery and just how scary it all was and what do you do with scary emotions. I'll link that in the show notes if you want to dive back into that. That was probably the most tearful episode I've ever recorded. It was just one of those big raw days. All right, so let's go down. We made it through the surgery. Now I have 8 weeks off of work. Whew. I've never taken, other than maternity leave, this much time off of work, right? Now I was in bed for a good amount of it. I had lots of complications with the surgery, but it just opened the doors to so much creativity. And I really got to dive into this business, the KaSa Media Productions business. I got to dive into podcasting. I was a guest on so many podcasts. It was really exciting and really fun to really get out there and take the time to be a guest. I probably was a guest on, 12 or 15 podcasts in that 8 weeks. And just really had a blast having the mental capacity to truly dive in to my business and my podcast. That was really fun. My 100th episode happened in, I think it was May. Had my 100th episode, and that was so exciting. I had B.B. Easton as the guest. For those of you that don't know who B.B. Easton is the author that wrote Sex Life, 44 chapters about 4 men. And her book got turned into a Netflix series called Sex Life, hot, steamy Netflix series. She was such an exciting guest because she had been an educator as well. She was a school psychologist. And she self-published this book. And she went from being a school psychologist that decided she needed to self-publish a book to having a Netflix series made from her book, and they're starting the second series. And she's now written multiple books and has a screenplay going. She's writing a screenplay, just all kinds of stuff. So she's super, super, super inspiring as somebody who said, you know what? I have this kind of traditional life, school psychologist, marriage, family, but it doesn't all feel right. I need to do more. I'm going to write about this. I'm going to write a book. And life just took off for her. Like magic happened because she started following her dreams. And so that was, I couldn't have asked for a better 100th episode. So check out episode 100. Whew, B.B. Easton. That was absolutely incredible. And that just kicked off some really, really, really exciting things for me. Oh, go back to January just a little bit. In January, I rebranded from Love and Life After Divorce to Radical Audacity in Love and Life. And so I shifted that January time. It was about mid to late January when I said, I think I'm going to shift. I think I'm going to move in a new direction. It felt good to do 80, I think I did about 82, 83 episodes in Love and Life After Divorce. It felt good to dig into that and really help people. But now I'm ready. I'm ready to shift. I'm ready to move into radical audacity and living this audacious life that not everybody understands. So that was really fun. June also saw the end of my job. I officially quit my 20-year career in public education. And you want to talk about something that is massively exciting and massively terrifying. That is, I spent 20 years with knowing what my paychecks were going to be. I was going to get 10 paychecks a year, and they were never going to be quite enough, but I know I got 10 paychecks a year. I knew when my vacations were going to be. I knew how much I would retire with. I had health insurance and dental and vision. It was very safe. But you guys have heard me talk about this before. It was a bookend job. It was a job that I loved. I loved for most of the time that I did it. I felt so called to be a teacher, and I loved being a teacher. But I felt so called to make a difference that when I moved on into administration, when I was on that admin track, where I really wanted to make a difference, was finding that I couldn't. I couldn't make the difference that I wanted to. They didn't want me. They didn't want the real me. They wanted a dimmed down version of me that could say yes and do what they asked of me, but not have real creative, new, exciting ideas. Couldn't really make a difference. In fact, I was told by my supervisor that I was just too passionate. And that is why they weren't going to be promoting me. I was just too passionate. Those were the exact words that were said to me by my supervisor. And they were great words, right? They were the words that said, okay, Tiffany, you need to rethink what you're doing. You either dim your light and fit in here, or you figure something new out. And so I set on the path to figure something new out. And I will not pretend for 1 second that this has been an easy path. The radically audacious path is usually really hard. It's the hard path, but you do it because you know it's right. And I know this path is right for me. This path of entrepreneurship, this path of being passionate, this path of raising the volume of my voice, this path of making a difference. This is the path I am supposed to be on. And I am so happy to be here. It's tough. It's tough. It's so hard to not get that regular paycheck, to have to trust that the money will come in, and to also take super aligned action to make sure that money does come in. It's a whole different mindset. It is a shifting from the employee mindset to the entrepreneurial mindset is massive and is difficult. It's insane. All right, so let's move on now to July, August, September. In that time period, I got a TED Talk. Yes, I got a TED Talk. I am giving that TED Talk in January, and I'm really excited about it. The TED Talk topic is fear, and I'm really excited. That was episode 121 when I got all excited, told you I got a TED Talk. I got a TED Talk. August was also when the Radical Audacity podcast turned a year old. I can't believe it was only a year. All these things that have changed in my life in only a year. It is absolutely mind-blowing. I also got to speak at Podfest Expo. I was on the keynote stage with my partner, David, and we got to give a talk, which was really exciting. I lost my voice for that talk, so it was more like I stood up on stage and squeaked. But it was fun. We had a blast. And I was also on the Women in Podcasting panel at Podfest Expo. And I got to give a hands-on Canva demo with my friend Shel Toscano, the Real Canva Girl. We did a real live Canva demo there at Podfest Expo. So it was a really exciting time where I got to be super involved in lots of different things there. Let's see, moving on now to October, November, December. This is when my Raise Your Volume Summit happened. The Raise Your Volume Summit. If you attended the Raise Your Volume Summit, I want to hear what you thought of it. Again, there is a link in the show notes where you can leave me a message. What speaker stood out to you? In the show notes, I am going to link each speaker's interview on the Radical Audacity podcast. Some of them were interviewed when it was Love and Life After Divorce, and some of them were interviewed when it was Radical Audacity. But each of these speakers had been guests on my podcast, and they were guests that I found so incredibly inspiring that I knew I had to create a summit, bring all of these women together, and talk about how we as women can raise the volume of our voice, have the confidence to be heard, and get out there. Let that passion shine. Go out and make a difference. So that brings me up to now, December. We're closing it out, closing the year out. It's been an incredible year of phenomenal guests, lots of highs and lows, lots of figuring out who I am now, what I'm doing. And I got to tell you, it's been joyful. It's been exhausting. It's been frustrating. It's been exciting. It's all of the things, all of the emotions are there. But I think the very best thing about this change, the very best thing that has happened this year is the incredible connections and collaborations that have happened from my guests, from the people listening. I've just been able to connect with so many incredible people, and that is such a gift that I will be eternally grateful for. So you, dear listener, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reaching out and connecting. Many of you have left me DMs on Instagram or Facebook. Many of you have left me emails, just left reviews on Apple Podcast or Podchaser or Good Pods. Like, you have been reaching out, and I just appreciate it so very much. So thank you. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for connecting. To me, that is the true joy of podcasting. January is going to bring out so many new things. As I look forward to 2023, I am so excited about the ways that this new venture that I've created is expanding. I am just bursting with excitement about the things that I want to announce that I just can't quite announce yet. But there are some exciting things coming that are going to benefit you, my listener, and I think are going to benefit the podcasting world as a whole. And I'm so excited to be involved in this. And it all comes from collaboration. It all comes from reaching out to people and talking to them and saying, how can we work together? How can we do this? With that in mind, I am here for you. So if you feel like you really want to work one-on-one with me, you'd like some of that heck yes coaching, you'd like to be coached by somebody who's there in the trenches with you, going through it, doing the hard stuff, then I'm your person and I would love to help you. So just reach out to me. Let's have a connection call and let's see what works best for you. I do one-on-one coaching. I do small group coaching. I just would love to work with you and just help you realize your strength and your power. Basically, all I do is hold up the mirror so that you can see that powerful woman that's always been inside you. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy your holiday celebrations with your family. Stay healthy. I know holidays can be a minefield of emotions. I recorded an episode about it last week. I am right there with you. But I hope you're able to make the very best of it and stay healthy and stay happy and stay connected. And as always, reach out to me. I'm right here. Remember to raise the volume of your voice. I'm listening.